How's it going, guys? Wanted to do a quick review slash commentary on these three chainsaws here. And, I wanted to kind of compare the gas and electric chainsaws for, maybe somebody who's thinking about picking up an electric chainsaw who's not too sure about it. A year ago, I didn't even really trust in these electric chainsaws, but they've definitely gotten to the point where they are competitors, if not on the smaller side, anything from 16-inch down. I would say they're actually even better in a lot of instances. So yeah, this first chainsaw I got is the stihl MS-170. It's got a 14-inch bar, but it can be put on a 12 or 18. I just got it with what it came with. I got the other bars, but I never really use them with that saw. I use my 18-inch, or I'll use this smaller 12-inch saw for those type of jobs. But yeah, this 12-inch Makita tree limbing saw I really like. I got it about a year ago. I've used it on a lot of jobs. Really useful. And then I've got this Makita 16-inch saw. It's the XCU04. Let me see if the brand on this other Makita saw is on here. Don't see it, but I think they only have two 12-inch saws, or the other one might even only be a 10-inch. But I know they got an arborist specific one-handed saw that just came out a little while ago, and that one's supposed to be really good as well. But yeah, this MS-170, I've had it for about 3 years. It's a really nice chainsaw. Never really had any issues with it that are too major. Never really, actually never replaced any parts on it as of yet. But I don't use it as much as maybe a full-time arborist would. Obviously, it's been run through, its fair share of misery, although it just got cleaned a little while ago. But like like all old chainsaws, always leaking like fucking hell, that's probably not good. But right now it's really cold, so a lot of the oil that I've got on the chain is just fucking leaking everywhere. But I just got it put in the shop and cleaned, so that oil is probably leaking from this portion over here, which never really seemed to close. So I store it basically on its back, and when in use, it's not really an issue, but I actually was storing it upside down, so that's probably why it leaks all over the chain. But pretty good saw. Besides that, never since day one, that always was like that. Never knew why, but that's really the only issue I've had there. I would say though, the one issue I've had with this saw is having gas maintained in it, because if you keep it for more than a month, it's gonna basically shut down the machine on you, and you gotta clean out the machine real good and empty out all the fluids. And on a lot of gas powered machines, you don't have to do that. So that's why I dislike this machine, because you basically have to winterize it. With the electric chainsaws, there's no oil, or gas leakage. There's no, problems with winterizing the equipment. These guys, you basically only have to put lubrication for the chain in here. So, you're limited to the gas problems or anything really catching fire on you, sparks and stuff like that. Obviously fires can be started other ways when you're cutting logs, but at least not from any oil leakages. The one feature I like on these Makita electric saws is they have an automatic brake kind of feature, where even if this isn't engaged while you're cutting, it can recognize when the chain is stopped, or hit kind of you know, too much for the chain, and it'll basically pull this up for you or stop the chain. You know, and that's kind of helpful because these gas ones take about, I'd say, maybe 2-3 seconds to shut down. You know, the operator for him to shut it down. So sometimes in some rough situations that can be a problem. But as far as cutting capacity, you know, when you compare this 16-inch Makita electric chainsaw to this MS 170, I much prefer the electric, actually, even after using this for probably cutting down over 100 trees. I've only probably cut down maybe 2 or 3 trees with this one, and because it's fairly new, maybe 2 or 3 months old. But with this one, I've cut down a lot, and it's a lot beefier kind of version. But yeah, as far as cutting capacity, they'll pretty much cut the same speed. The electric will just do it a little bit smoother, I'd say. This 12-inch is really good for being up in the trees. You know, it's light. It's not really a one-handed saw. I like to use it for limbing and stuff, but I still know most of the time I gotta have 2 hands on here. They do have a one-handed saw that I haven't picked up yet, but that one is supposed to be dedicated for arborists, so that's why that one's gonna be a little bit better if you want to do one-handed operations. But these electric saws, obviously, the benefit is going to be that there's no emissions from them. So, you know, if you know, you're trying to go green, I guess, your company or you as an individual, that's definitely a plus. The downside to that, obviously, is going to be that you're limited to the battery. So maybe this guy in particular gets around 35-40 minutes for me. That guy could get around an hour. You can do a lot in an hour, and I usually carry around 10 batteries with me, so I'll be able to do 5 hours, you know, with this guy, or around 3 with this guy, and I can usually get whatever I need to get done in that time, or if I need to go the whole day, you know, tree cutting, I can bring the stihl out as well. But I usually start the jobs with these and try to finish if I can. One big plus on these, you know, chainsaws, the electric, is going to be, you got this feature here where you can basically unscrew the whole inside of, you know, the chainsaw. Let me see if I could do it pretty easily here for you, kind of show you the inside here. But if you see here, the chains here, you know, if you want to move the distance, you want to tighten it or do anything, it's all right there for you. And then you can just shackle it back up. I'm not going to do it fully because I'm probably going to adjust the chain later. But, you know, on the stihl, you don't have that feature. You have to carry, you know, your chainsaw tool, obviously, to take these bolts off and remove this covering to access the chain and the components in the chainsaw there. You also have this cover for, you know, the various filters in here, your spark plug. You know, the electric chainsaws don't have any of that. They don't have filters, they don't have spark plugs. You know, there's dozens of things less inside that can go wrong, because these are basically just an electric motor and the chainsaw. Whereas the gas chainsaw has, like I said, the spark plug, the air filter, carburetor, has, you know, around 24 things that can individually break and cost you anywhere from $20 to $200 to fix. So in the long run, these are much cheaper to maintain, obviously, and I haven't had to put any work in them, whereas this guy usually seems every 6 months I'm having to repair him, which isn't really a big deal for me because, you know, I make a lot of money with him and he puts in work. But that is one downside. This guy's always in the freaking shop, and he costs me money to repair and stuff. So that's why I haven't actually picked up another Stihl or Husqvarna or even Echo. I love those companies and I love their chainsaws, but it's really, the first year or two they're amazing, and then you're repairing them all the time. Like I said, I've had the Makita for around a year, maybe around a year and a half. Haven't had any issues with it, and it's right around that time where it would start to give me issues. So now I know, like in a gas powered chainsaw, if it was a Makita gas powered chainsaw. Um, so the fact that it's not having to be repaired is definitely a huge plus. This 16-inch chainsaw, one thing I dislike, but is probably fairly important to put out there for people, is this safety switch. The chainsaw won't even cut if you don't push this before you push the triggers down. So I mean, that's a great safety feature, I say, and a bad thing for arborists, because I'll give you an example of that. When I was little, my dad had a stone sharpening machine, and I was a super crazy little kid, and I plugged it in and put my finger in there and cut my finger off because there was no safety. It's just a literal, like, turn on machine, right? Whereas this guy has an extra safety. So for a kid to come up, turn the button on, turn the trigger, and take the guard off, that's already 3 safeties that a kid who doesn't know about this machine is not going to exploit. So that's why I think that's good, but it's bad because if you put it down for like 30 seconds, you have to constantly always be pushing the button, and then that can be a time waster. But it is a good safety feature, so I don't mind it, I guess. But I could see where people have annoyances with it. And both these chainsaws are 18 volt times 2, so they're 36 volt chainsaws, and they're going to be maybe a little bit more powerful than 18 volt chainsaw than maybe other brands have. I know Milwaukee has a chainsaw that's 18 volt but with a 12 amp battery, so that might be comparable with the 16-inch Makita. The Makita might, I'd say, beat it, just because Makita is partnered with Dolmar, and Dolmar makes a lot of really good chainsaws that I've used and my family's used in the past. So them kind of bring in that gas powered knowledge to the electric game. I'd maybe trust them a little bit more than Milwaukee. Milwaukee beats them on plumbing and electric tools, obviously, but on chainsaws, I think they got them. But yeah, let's see. This chainsaw, the gas powered MS-170, has the same brake, same chains are used, same bars. Actually, the chains that I have on these Makitas, that came with the Makita, supposedly have like anti-brake technology as well. I haven't noticed any of that, in cutting, but they tested it, and supposedly, it's supposed to brake more. I guess when it hits a chip that it can't cut through. And obviously these chains are just your regular old chains that are gonna not have that. But like I said, I haven't seen any difference in cutting, so who knows if that's true or not. The one advantage to these obviously is going to be to the electric chainsaws is obviously going to be they just start up at trigger, so you don't need to power them up if it's cold or if it's hot. It doesn't freaking matter. The stihls, they're a freaking hassle to turn on when it's cold. I freaking always have problems with them. This guy, before I took him into the shop, I had left the gas in there for like a month, and I turned it on like once, but it took me like 30 pulls. So obviously that's a huge problem, and it's carburetor. Obviously, if you know about chainsaws and have had chainsaws for a few years, its carburetor got clogged, and they had to clean it out, and that was because gas in there evaporated into the carburetor and screwed it all up. So you got to clean it out. So that's not an issue that will happen with your electric chainsaws. Like if you forget to leave the gas. Like if you forget to take the battery out, okay, you don't have charge. You go put it in the charging unit over there. And by the way, these two batteries, they give you, like I said, maybe 35 minutes in this bigger electric chainsaw over here, and then in the smaller one, it'll give you, 12, or it'll give you around an hour. But these guys, they charge in like 15-20 minutes. So if you constantly have batteries charging, you never really will leave. You can cut the whole day and not really have a huge problem. But that obviously, that's mainly on houses, because if you're cutting on a hillside or somewhere where there's no power, unless you have a generator, you can't really use the charger. And I mean, I've done it. I've taken a generator with me and used only battery-powered saws, but kind of defeats the purpose. I mean, you have to put gas in the freaking generator to power your electric saws. So, yeah. But as far as all the other features, they're your standard chainsaws. They look and feel pretty similar. This guy is maybe, I'd say, about a 20% weight difference, less of a weighty chainsaw. But this guy obviously is going to pack maybe 10-20% more power as well, right? So the thing is, why I really like these electric ones, I'd say, is because I can pretty much get everything done that I would with the gas one, So as far as being good saws, they're great saws for about 75% of what I do. If I'm taking out a big tree, I'm not using one of these saws anyways. I'll be using, a 22-inch stihl, or 18-inch Echo that I've got, and those are great saws. But for most of the stuff, you need a small saw. So the electric can do it, MS-170 can do it. They're all great saws. But if I had to pick one out of the three, I'd probably go with this 12-inch, because I can mostly use it with one hand up in the trees. It's fairly lighter than the other two, probably half the weight, or maybe maybe not half, maybe 35-40% less than these other two units. And that really comes in handy when you're using the machine all day. But at the same time, even though it's a 12-inch bar, if you got pretty good experience, you can pretty much do with this machine what you can with these larger units. It'll take a little bit longer, but because of the maneuverability and the less wear and tear on your body, and that allows you to go for much longer. So in my opinion, it allows you to do much more work. Like I said, I've taken out maybe with these two electric chainsaws, the biggest tree I've probably taken out is a 40-footer, 2 foot wide. And then with this MS-170, I've taken out 60-foot pine trees and stuff. If I really had to, and the other saws were being used or borrowed by a friend or something, right? So they're really good for really anything that you need to do tree-wise or shrub-wise. But I'd definitely go with electric chainsaws these days, and the smaller chains. The bigger chainsaws, they still don't, you can't power a 22-inch chainsaw trying to take out something, over there in NorCal or Oregon or Washington, these huge freaking trees, with one of these electric guys yet. It's not there yet. But for the smaller stuff, urban, if you're an urban landscaper like me, this stuff is, perfect. Let me see if I can think of anything else for these guys. Oh yeah, one kind of neat feature I like on this Makita 12-inch is it's got you know, for your lanyard, for your arborist lanyard, you can plug it in right here. And on the other ones, it doesn't have that, even the 16-inch one, because I guess you wouldn't want to have that up in the, you know, in the canopy anyways. But it's a nice little feature. I wish all the other chainsaws had it, just because sometimes, you know, you're not that high up, but maybe you're 4 feet high up on a ladder or something. You don't want that, you know, dropping and breaking. Not even really for your safety, but for the chainsaw safety. This one, you know, they more put it for people safety, because when you're high up in a tree, you don't want the chainsaw to fall on somebody's head and kill them. So, you know, I get why they would put that standard on this one, but I wish it was on all of them. Yeah. As far as the handles on all of them, this one, it's a pretty nice handle where you can turn it all the way, you know, line your tree up and where you want to fill it. Same thing with the stihl here. Line your tree up where you want to fill it. This guy, obviously, because he's a smaller saw, you're gonna forgot to tighten that guy up. But you know, because he's a smaller saw, you don't really need put this chain back on. Forgot what I was saying. Oh, but because it's a smaller saw, you know, obviously it doesn't have those larger handle to fell your tree, because it's not for tree felling. It's more for limbing, for tree canopy work and stuff like that. So you're not really going to need to pinpoint the direction of what where your tree's going. But yeah, it's a real good saw in the long run, though, even though it doesn't have that handle, because it's got this secondary handle to kind of allow you a second grip on the saw. So, and on all of these, you know, the guards are pretty close to pull with your left hand once you have your two hands on the saw. So, no issues there. On the makitas, they've got this, you know, these pinchers, I forget what they're called, but, you know, they're metal, whereas on the stihl, they're plastic. I much prefer the metal. They, you know, take the log in much better, whereas the plastic kind of on chips doesn't really get into the log as well. Like as you're cutting, you know, it can kind of move on you, whereas the metal, I find, stays in place much better. Yeah, I think that's it, guys. Have a great day. Peace out.